Alright everybody, cannot believe I'm saying this, but now it's time to jump right into the second half of Season 9. No better way to kick it off than with the last laugh. Jesus, the word laugh is coming up a lot in these episode titles. Well, it is the last season, so it makes sense. So, yeah. This is the last laugh. So our episode begins with pretty much the main six rushing to Twilight's castle, where apparently Pinkie basically brought them all here to kind of discuss why they're here.
We shake the very foundations of your perception for all time! A cupcake? Yes! But wait, there's more! It's an invitation to visit the Cheese Sandwich Amusement Factory!
Yes! So this episode basically brings the return of Cheese Sandwich, the minor character that was Pinkie's kind of rival back in Pinkie Pie in Season 4. But there's a more of a reason as to why Pinkie wants to go see Cheese Sandwich rather than just, well, wanting to meet Cheese again, as Twilight basically asks why.
Asking about the part about Cheese Sandwich and your life's purpose? Oh, that, yeah. Oh, you have found your thing. You're gonna rule all of Equestria. Things that is wonderful. Fluttershy has her animal sanctuary. Verity has his boutique. Applejack has that hat. And the farm. So that's like 2 things.
So yeah, so Pinkie basically wants to go see Cheese Sandwich to ask him about, what he's been doing, because she wants to figure out her life's purpose. Now, one person can make the argument that, as I said back in Yakety Sax, the Smile song, basically her whole purpose was to seeing her friend smile. However, unlike in Yakety Sax, where basically it was just contrived over the fact that she was trying to learn an instrument that she doesn't know how to master and just learned about. But I think this episode kind of makes it the point of wondering what your purpose is in life. Because naturally, when you see how other people are doing in life, admittedly, whether you want to admit it or not, you do have to be a little bit jealous of what they've been doing, and you feel like you're kind of stuck. Because I've had that multiple times, like the last 4 years since I graduated in college. And I can't help but feel the same thing. So I do like that Pinkie wants to try to go talk to Cheese Sandwich to see if he can be willing to help basically find her purpose in life. So essentially she goes to the cheese factory where basically we see, well, Cheese seems to be doing well as she basically comes across this gray type of factory as she's basically stopped by the gatekeepers here.
Can we help you?
You sure can. I'm here to see Cheese Sandwich.
Cheese Sandwich doesn't see any pony. This factory is shut tight. No pony ever comes out and no pony ever goes in, including you. So, move along.
Oh, that's a shame. To think I came all this way because of this personal invitation from Cheese Sandwich himself.
You have an invitation? Well, why didn't you say so?
Yeah, I was just going to say, these two guards are just complete and total dickheads, but then once they show her the invitation, they just immediately change their tune like that. So, at least that's one complaint that's basically kind of squashed. So, after we get this bit of humor right here, we do get to see this Willy Wonka-esque factory as it looks kind of drab. Because considering that this is Cheese Sandwich, I thought it would be something, more extravagant. But then literally the red carpet is rolled out as we meet this guy.
This should have gotten a big laugh. I wonder if we need to add more carpet rolls. I suppose it could be the mask. Let's try taking the nostril flare down 10%. Thoughts?
I have a thought. Who are you?
So sorry. Son Smurf, Vice President of Amusement Integration.
Smog Smurf. I'm not sure if I'm mispronouncing that name because I didn't have time to look up the actual name. But yeah, as you can probably tell by the monotone voice and the fact that if you've seen the episode, his cutie mark is a literal wet blanket, you can kind of tell who this guy is kind of going to be. And I say kind of because basically he has a similar role to what Sassy Saddle was back in the Canterlot Boutique episode in Season 5, where his heart is in the right place, and I'll get more into that. as he brings Pinkie inside the factory to give, well, a very, like any other factory that's basically gray and drab.
Maybe the fun is behind all this boring-looking factory stuff.
I was gonna say, it looks kind of
The fun
pristine.
is the factory stuff. We take a fairly serious approach to comedy here. Observe. Oh, look, a pretty flower.
The sporting flower is a classic. Oh, what if the flower was part of the shirt, but the flower didn't squirt, the shirt did?
Yeah, and unlike those ideas, they actually welcome Pinkie's ideas for their style of comedy, and they think it actually could be very helpful.
Come on, that's just off the top of my head. You probably get like 17,000 ideas like that from cheese every minute.
We'd have to use a series of interconnected tubes in the fabric. What do you think of this?
I think it's a whoopee cushion.
Yes?
What if you made the embarrassing sound of Rinso Pony out?
I sit on it, but the sound comes from you. We could call it the ventriloquy cushion. What?
So, which way is Cheese's office again?
Right, of course.
So then after another pretty humorous gag with a very slippery banana peel, which I gotta admit is pretty funny, Pinkie then approaches Cheese's office where things are looking very grim.
I'm glad you came.
Of course I did. Your factory is big. It really seems like you found your purpose, which is perfect since I came here for help.
That is perfect. I knew I could count on you to help me.
Well, that's triple perfect because... Oh, wait. Why do you need my help?
Because, Pinkie, I've completely lost my laugh.
Well, this is depressing. So yeah, so first and foremost, they managed to get Weird Al Yankovic back to reprise his role as Cheese Sandwich, so I'm really grateful for that. But yeah, considering what we see at the factory and what we saw from those few lines of dialogue, we see that Cheese Sandwich is, well, not really himself.
That's some kind of joke because it's not a funny one.
It's not a joke. And even if it was, I wouldn't be able to laugh at it.
Right. Why don't we continue this discussion over some delicious canned peanut brittle? Wow. Tickles your laugh. That's horrible.
Sorry to interrupt, but it occurs to me that a 7% tighter wine on snake springs would yield a 12% increase in giggle output.
Dude, there's a time and place for that. I know this is technically part of your job, but, read the room. And I know he's a wet blanket, and I know that's, like, kind of the purpose, but it's like, come on, dude, really? So Cheese Sandwich basically explains to Pinkie how exactly this all happened and how he ended up losing his laugh.
Everything. I spread my party chair wherever it was needed. I even started making individual, one-of-a-kind novelty gags for each and every one of my parties.
And we do see that some of these were very creative, basically a bat me out of a piñata, but essentially when he basically, with the help, well, I'll let him explain it even further.
It was more work than my hooves could handle, but I didn't want to disappoint all those smiling faces. Luckily, Fan Smirk came to me with the idea for a factory. A gag factory. I could finally keep up with demand and make every pony happy. Soon we were sending gags all over Equestria. But then, one day, my laugh was just gone. I haven't left the factory since. I don't want any pony to see me like this. I mean, look at me. Boneless 2 doesn't even recognize me anymore.
Okay, that's a bit of a humorous joke. But yeah, so essentially, basically, Cheese Sandwich formed this gag factory to keep up with demands with all the gags he wanted to help over Equestria, and with the help of Sam Smurf, again, I know his name, I'm butchering his name, but I'm just going to call him Sam Smurf from now on. With his help, he was able to make the factory to keep up with demands, but it seems like as time went on, he basically ended up losing a lot of his laugh. And basically, he's just not enjoying what he's doing anymore. Now, I do need to bring something up because some people have a bit of an issue. I think you know who I'm referring to in regards of other reviewers, but let's just say that some other reviewers have an issue with the overall tone of the episode. It might have been because there were other personal issues going on, and at the time of the episode's airing, BronyCon just had its last BronyCon at the time of this episode's airing. However, for me personally, I kind of appreciate this kind of downer tone, because we know that Weird Al is a wide-range performer, where he's a great musician, he's a great performer, but this downer move kind of helps prove that Weird Al is a really good actor. And I really do have to appreciate the tone. Now, I do understand what this episode is talking about with a lot of the blankness and the grayness. And I think the gray kind of serves a purpose. Yeah, the gray and the overall background kind of hurts the eyes a bit at times, but there is a purpose to it as we will keep going. So Pinkie decides then she wants to help out Cheese Sandwich by trying to get her to laugh some more. And with the help, she basically comes up with a few gags that are admittedly a little bit funny, but ultimately they don't end up working because Cheese is still really not laughing. And we do get a pretty humorous moment where Pinkie tries to be a motivator to get Cheese to try and smile.
Give me your biggest, fastest smile.
Am I doing it? Am I smiling?
I think it's probably me when I'm trying to put on my best smile face. I just can't help but crack at it a bit.
I feel like I'm smiling.
Almost. Maybe I just need to spot you for a rep or two.
So while that doesn't really end up going anywhere, basically Sam Smurf decides to bring Pinkie inside to talk about the science of comedy. Now, listen, I am not a comedian, and I don't really know all the ins and outs of comedies, so it's very interesting to see the actual science of comedy.
Magic happens. Research and development. It's where we figure out the science of funny.
How is science funny?
Of course, there's no one-size-fits-all joke, no grand unified gag theory. But if we figure out the funny of one gag, we can combine it with the funny of another gag and make a third, funnier gag.
So basically, it's taking one gag, adding another, and then kind of putting them together.
Yes, that makes sense. Rule of three. 1, 2, 3. Yep, that math checks out. At this point, I'm willing to give anything a try.
So then we get a montage of Pinkie basically knowing how to do her, best science bit, as pretty much everybody else seems to get it, and admittedly, a lot of the gags that she tries, while not all of them land their bullseyes, I do get a chuckle out of them from here and there, but it still seems like no matter what Pinkie tries, Cheese is still unable to laugh.
Tried everything. Stand-up, classic gags, physical humor, prop comedy, monotone, surreal and bulky character pieces. Nothing worked!
It seems we've exhausted every avenue that even the science of comedy can provide.
So Cheese basically continues to be depressed and basically decides that he wants to basically close down the factory, but Pinkie tries to figure out if there's any way to help him out.
You're all just giving up?
I'm afraid Mr. Sandwich is right. You are the funniest pony in Equestria. And if you can't bring back his laugh, it is surely gone forever.
But Cheese was just as funny as me. I can't believe that's all gone.
None of us can. I shudder to think what will become of the factory.
You're not going to close down, are you? I thought this place was Cheese's life purpose.
It certainly was mine. But if Mr. Sandwich has finally given up, there's only so long we can retool his old ideas before we run out of gags to produce.
Now, this is what I mean by the comparison between Sam Smurf and Sassy Saddles. that while on the surface he does appear to be a stick in the mud, at the very least, he is aware that it was more of his dream than it was Cheese Sandwich, and they were just trying to be helpful business partners, and that his heart was ultimately in the right place. It's not like what it was with Sassy in the Karen Lock Boutique, where she was completely oblivious to what she was doing to Rarity. At least his heart was in the right place, despite him being a complete and total stick in the mud. So eventually, after through some wording and gagging, Pinkie basically helps him figure out what exactly to do to help Cheese Sandwich out of his slump.
No, before that.
Back to the drawing board.
That was me!
Nothing brought Mr. Sandwich more pleasure than seeing the laughter his gags brought to Pony's first look.
Matt! We've been going about this all wrong. We don't need to make Cheese laugh. Cheese needs to make us laugh. Cheese! I figured it out. I know why you can't laugh.
What? Why?
You started this factory because you didn't want to disappoint smiling faces. But here, you can't see any.
It does make a certain sense, sir. Spreading laughter has always brought you joy. But spreading laughter is what this factory does.
Except you don't see it. You're a party pony like me. You need to make Pony smile in person. Here, just try it.
Okay. Why did Boneless 2 cross the road? To prove to Boneless 1 he wasn't a chicken. Very funny, sir. Excellent joke. Oh, I mean, ha.
Really?
Sorry, not much of a laugher.
Okay, this is another thing that I do have to say about this episode, is that Pinkie is basically back on top of her game. Even though that this episode was written by the same people that did Yakety Sax, I'm sure those same two writers got a lot of the angry fan mail, and they had to rework Pinkie's humor. And here, it feels like she's back to form now, because I find myself at least not outright laughing, but I'm getting a lot more chuckles here than I did in previous episodes. But essentially, through some slight mix-up in words, we see that Cheese starts to get his groove back as one of the workers basically comes in and explains how he feels.
The letters of those words, it was just a bit funny. So you're saying it's a mix?
Oh, crap. So this actually leads into our next song of the season, which, believe it or not, is also the same title of this episode, The Last Laugh. Now, as for the song itself, it's definitely very great to hear Weird Al singing again, as basically we see how he manages to basically, get the laugh back on rolling as he becomes his old self again. And we also get a pretty epic accordion solo on top of it, as we actually see him become basically this Willy Wonka-esque character, and this is why I made that talk about, the gray background before, because some reviewers couldn't help but the whole depressing mood to be an absolute downer, because they were basically being depressed about it as well, as they were still being in a gray factory. However, if you know in art class, gray is kind of a used color to use to kind of make other colors basically stand out, where you need kind of a vocal point. Honestly, I'm not really much of an artist, so I don't know why I'm trying to explain it, but you can't really complain about the gray background when we have characters wearing bright yellow suits, and yellow is usually a strong color to try to counteract with the grayness. As for the song itself, it definitely is very humorous, and on top of that, it's just a great joy of just getting into it with basically seeing Weird Al back into form. Admittedly, it's not as great as his songs from Pinkie Pride, but this is still a very good follow-up to see him just get back to his old self. And this kind of basically brings it to the point of, this is the thing. I am not the type of person to show depression, and I really don't know how it works with other people, because everybody deals with depression completely differently, and there could be other outside effects that might affect this episode. But I think the point of this episode is just basically kind of show that, yes, at some point you are going to face, you can potentially lose your purpose, and basically kind of feel like if you're doing the same thing over and over again, you'll basically kind of get bored of it, and at points you will face burnout. But if you kind of remember why you did this stuff in the first place, and you can get yourself back into it, you can remember why you enjoyed doing it in the first place, and I think that's a poignant lesson to learn. It's not that no matter what, you will always have this gray cloud over your head, because that's just how people want to think negatively. Now, like I said, it's different for every person. Every people is different, and everybody constantly deals with depression, and that they will always have this perspective that they will have this gray cloud over their head, and that just saying it and just saying over and over again, you find other avenues to deal with it, it's not always going to work. It's always going to depend on the person. And that if you always try to look on the bright side of things, no matter how bleak some things may seem, you could still find enjoyment out of the things that you do. I wanted to get that out of the way because, quite frankly, some reviewers are honestly really negative on this episode, and I've enjoyed this episode. I really do think it's a good episode, and I think that the complete and utter downer mood of most of the episode kind of serves a purpose to basically teach you that, well, you can end up forgetting your place in life, and you might not start to basically not enjoy the things that you like to do, but if you remember why you enjoyed doing them in the first place, you can get back up on that horse. Some people may look at this in a different kind of light, but I think it serves a poignant lesson to learn. It's not that no matter how gray things seem that you always have a gray cloud over your head, because that's just always your negative thinking kind of taking over you. If you can always try to look on the positive side of things, even if you're pushed to your absolute breaking point, you can find your way to get out of it. Alright, so after the song ends, basically Cheese Sandwich decides that he wants to find the gags in person and wants to leave Sam Smurf in charge of the factory.
So good to have you back, sir. Finally, we can get the factory back to how things used to be.
Sans, my good pony, I don't think I can run this factory anymore. But you can!
Without you? I don't understand.
Pinkie was right. This is what I need!
And another point to point out, we see that the factory workers throughout the entire episode did enjoy doing what they were doing and how invested that they were in the episode. Just had to throw that out there for some people who still just don't get it.
I just can't have funny ideas. I need to wander the land and see ponies laughing at them. You can run the factory, but I need to live! And don't think I've forgotten about you, little buddy. I knew you'd be on board. And don't worry, out on Equestria, I'll have more great ideas for gags, and I'll send them all to you!
Sir, are you sure this is what you want to do?
Of course! It's my life's purpose!
Hey, that's what I came here looking for.
You did? Well, come on! Let's figure it out!
Actually, I think I'm good.
So then Pinkie basically returns to Twilight's castle and tells the main six what exactly went down.
I said goodbye, and then I came here. Oh, and then I gathered you all together and started telling you about it. First, I said, well, that sounds like quite a trip. And Cheese Sandwich just left his own factory? Yep, but I think Salt Smurf's hooks were the perfect ones to leave it in. As much as Cheese was born to wander Equestria and make ponies laugh in person, Salt was born to run that factory.
And you don't sound so worried about finding your life's purpose anymore.
Nope, I figured out Cheese and I are pretty much the same. We both need to see ponies laughing to feel fulfilled. And I already do that. My life is purposing itself all over the place.
And this is the thing with Pinkie, is that Pinkie is a lot like me, where I am the type of person that freaks out about what will happen in the future. And that the fear of not just the end of the world eventually when the sun burns out, or the thought of everybody getting old around me and eventually we die. That in and of itself terrifies me beyond belief. And I'm the type of person that likes to think about things in the moment, not about the past, because that's the type of stuff that will creep in and will make you depressed, or the future because we don't know when it's going to happen, and that stuff in and of itself, when I'm not in this world anymore, that terrifies me beyond belief. So Pinkie is able to find a way to basically be able to find her purpose but not worry about it too much, and basically enjoys being in the moment and realizes her purpose. And that because her and Cheese Sandwich are so similar, she wants to try to make her friend smile as well as every pony smile in Equestria. And that's what I think this episode has to be very poignant about, is that it's okay to feel these things, but you can always try to figure out what you enjoy doing and what you want to do. You can find that purpose.
I agree completely. Thanks. Oh, I almost forgot.
And we end on a peanut butter brittle gag with basically confetti instead of snakes. And that was the last laugh. And I really like this episode. I think maybe what it is that there might be a bit of a tonality kind of thing. Some people may not get the whole basically gray and, depressing atmosphere. And while some people can look at that as a negative because they might be having a depressing thought about it and just seeing Cheese Sandwich go through with it, I think it kind of works to the benefit of this episode. Because first of all, it was great seeing Weird Al back as voicing Cheese Sandwich, but I think this episode really does make it a point to show that, yes, you will eventually have to face that, if you do something long enough, you are going to feel like you can get sick of it, and eventually you will lose your purpose of it, and worse, you could feel burnout. Because those are natural feelings to have. But if you remember why you enjoy doing these things, but if you remember why you do them, you can be able to get back on your feet and you can get back that joy. And that it's natural to feel jealous of what other people are doing in their lives, but even if you seem like you're so off, but if you're able to find that purpose and enjoy it for what it is, you can find the positive side of things too. Now this is the thing, while I did enjoy this episode, and while I did get a few giggles here and there about this episode, as far as comedy goes, I do appreciate them explaining the science of comedy, but the thing about this episode's comedy is that it's very hit or miss. While I did giggle at a couple things, there wasn't really any, gags that made me, laugh out loud. So the gags in the episode overall, this comedy, which is one of the things that this episode really highlights since it's a Pinkie and Cheese Sandwich episode, it's very hit and miss. And I think that really is a strike against this episode. But it's nothing that really ruins overall the negative experience. And while some people might take issue to the depressing atmosphere, it basically kind of serves a purpose, as it basically highlights Weird Al as not only a performer, a songwriter, but also as an actor. And I think some people need to see more of the positive side of things on this episode, to not focus strictly on the negatives. Now, obviously it's been a few years since this episode came out, so some things might have changed. But I think it's just a little food for thought when it comes to this episode. So for me, personally, I'd say the last laugh, I think it's an A- episode. I think overall, I didn't mind this episode. I didn't mind the atmosphere, as it definitely served a purpose, and I think it definitely was really good. I think really the only critique that I would give this episode is that the comedy for the most part was very hit or miss. But I think for me, the comedy was more misses than hits. Like I said, there were a few gags that I liked, but there really wasn't anything that made me rolling on the floor laughing. So that's really the only negative I would have to give this episode. But overall, I enjoyed this episode, and I really don't understand why people just don't like this episode. It's a difference of opinion, sure, but if it's an opinion that is just based on an emotional mood, then I'm not going to take it seriously. So yeah, so the last laugh is an A- episode. Alright, next time we will be looking at 246 Great. And I mean that great in a sarcastic manner. Oh my god, here we go. Alright, 246 Great. I'll see you guys next time. Bye.